pay transparency, I think a lot of times at face value, people think it's just show me the range. And well, companies can do that, but that is just not the spirit of what pay transparency is or the outcome that it's trying to drive. And what's really important is around pay process transparency. And that requires a lot of education because a lot of folks don't understand pay practices within a company. I'd argue a lot of leaders and even folks in HR don't quite understand all of the nuances of the decisions of the policies that they made and the impacts that it has on individuals and also on the business itself and the opportunities or options that a business has. When you get down to it, pay transparency really describes the what and the how. What are the salary ranges for a particular role in an organization? How are pay decisions made? Pay equity is about fairness. It's equal pay for equal work. It's what most people talk about. There is a relationship with it, but it's a little different. And let me explain. What often gets missed, and why, if I'm honest, I believe pay transparency alone is just not going to cut it, is decision clarity, right? So, research shows that work performed by women or certain racialized groups is undervalued. That's related to the devaluation theory. If there's a certain person, again, woman, or a certain person of a certain race in a particular role, if you or society does not value that gender or does not value that particular race, and therefore their work is also not valued. All that said, pay transparency is a step in the right direction. So if we have more decision clarity around how we value work, how we value someone's role, it's really going to help us with pay equity. You really need to gain buy-in and, again, an understanding. What does the executive team, what does the board, if necessary, believe about pay transparency? That's the first place. If they don't believe in it, it's going to fail. So you've got to share the vision of what pay transparency will do for an organization. Next, you need to actually announce it to the company that you plan to implement pay transparency. This is actually both symbolic of the company's changing. We want to be more transparent, and we want to show you that we want to be held accountable. And so letting them know that this is what you want to do, again, explain the who, what, when, why, how, lean very heavily into the why you want to do this and what outcomes you're expecting, but also mention you're not going to get it right. And I would say, the asterisks around what's pitfalls, not communicating early and often is a pitfall, and not sharing it's a hard truth. This is an iterative process. There is no such thing as perfection when it comes to pay transparency. Even with companies who share individuals' pay, it's not perfect. I hear horror stories all the time. Let folks know that you're going to continue to work and perfect the system, and you need their help. Partner with finance. If you try to do this without your partners in finance, again, it's going to be problematic. Pay transparency has an impact on a balance sheet. Again, I have yet to hear from a people leader who their first go around with implementing pay transparency, they did not have to give at least one person a meaningful raise. If that is not budgeted for, it is problematic. Or if it's not accounted for, how are we going to make, if you have a lot of them, how do you phase in pay transparency or that equity piece? Because it'll seem as though you're being inequitable when honestly, it can just be financial constraints from the business. Like if you can't do it, you got to be careful to roll out pay transparency before the business is financially capable and ready to make those decisions. And I mean pay decisions. What pay transparency can do when it comes to fairness is honestly getting an organization and individuals used to having conversations around both beliefs and definitions. You're defining a process, you're defining salary ranges. That's what pay transparency does. You'll also have to define things that are very subjective, like fairness. What does a business believe is fair versus what an individual believes is fair in relation to pay? You're always going to find just 20 million or just 20 different answers to what fair is when you ask individuals, or if you ask the CEO or the CFO or even the chief people officer. And so having clear and open conversations and being transparent, and kind of like drawing a line in the sand as to what that actually means for the organization. And this is how it shows up. This is how we're going to ensure fairness or equity at our organization. This is part of our transparency process. It's not just simply about, we're going to show you what the ranges are, but our true transparency is around pay process transparency and decision transparency. The things that I've seen around, again, the D&I push that came from 2020 really helped to help organizations and employees have more conversations around pay transparency, pay process transparency, and also just beyond just like the compensation, the world of work itself, the things that people actually need to thrive at work. A lot of uncomfortable conversations to this day are being had, and I think that's, again, very exciting. And I'm excited to see how things are going to be in another 10 years, because some things you're starting to see where companies are, pushing back on some of the remote work. And you understand kind of both sides, some things that you're seeing or hearing around whether or not the DEI initiatives have had the impact that they were intended to. Again, it's still very, very early on, so I think it's too early to assess, but wanting to make sure that organizations don't take their foot off the gas. Think more about the HR tech stack. Another trend I got on board with so long ago was around one tool to rule them all. Just all you need is one tool. I don't believe in that anymore, actually. I believe getting tools that have significant expertise in the things that you need them to have expertise in. And if they have multiple, fantastic. But think about how you can add different pieces, add other types of technology and tools from different types of vendors, so your tech stack makes sense. You don't need one place. That would be efficient. It seems like it would be efficient. It seems like it would be effective. Again, what tends to get hard is, a lot of tools, or a lot of these software companies are trying to be the end all be all, but they're only great at a few things. Find excellence in all the things that you actually need to have excellence, and that means multiple tools, and make sure that the APIs work together well. Oh yeah, and HRIS, hands down. Like, it is the most important piece of software for a small business on the HR front. Again, it streamlines a lot of things that you need. It is the data repository for the talent of your organization, and you can and should do so much with even the most basic HRIS systems. So without it, oh my goodness, I don't even know. I'm not great with Excel and pivot tables, and I'm sure that there are a lot of people that can do some wizardry with it. I am not one of them. And so needing a software like an HRIS that can handle a lot of those systems very just simply is important. So that's the most important thing. My number one recommendation for businesses looking to grow fast is don't focus on growing fast, focus on growing efficiently. That's where magic happens. Like, when businesses think about growth and efficiency, it's not always about headcount growth. It is optimization. Like, is this team fully optimized? Do I really need this particular role? That's honestly what unlocks business growth. And when that business growth then dictates that, okay, we need to hire more people, hire more talent, skills is what you're looking to fill, right? Competencies and capabilities of the organization. That is real growth. And it's less about speed, and it's more about efficiency. So if you care about attracting talent or retaining talent, pay transparency is going to come up in the conversation. You don't have to engage, but there's always an opportunity cost. It may or may not get you the type or the quality of candidates and employees that you need to accelerate your business. And so it's a gamble.